Hello and welcome. My name is Catherine Walters, and I'm the host for the Joyful Use Telesummit. I am an intuitive healer and joy coach, and I help people who are stressed and overwhelmed in my business guided change to feel more happiness and joy. And I've gathered together 22 amazing speakers who are I can't begin. I just get goosebumps when I think about the fabulous tips that they have to share for everyone. And they're going to help all of you create a more positive, energetic lifestyle full of happiness, joy, fun, and play. Now, today I am so excited because we have Sandra Bienkowski, and she is a nationally published writer. And she writes for Live Happy magazine. So if you don't know about Live Happy, Sandra's going to tell us all about it. And she's the owner of the Media Concierge. So Sandra is going to share her tips and insights and tools that she uses so she stays happy. So Sandra, welcome to the Joyful You Summit. And thank you for being here and sharing your expertise.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, thank you. So I'm curious, Sandra, and I'm sure all of our viewers are, what drew you to write about happiness? Because that's not it's not all of the work that you do. So what started you in writing about happiness?
Yes, well, first and foremost, I'm a writer, and what started me out was actually depression. Which is kind of ironic, given the journey from depression to happiness. But in my 20s, I recognized I was depressed from a really challenging and tough childhood. Mm-hmm. And so I put myself in talk therapy.
Okay.
And so I wanted to share that because I'm just such a huge advocate for talk therapy. And to this day, and now I'm in my 40s, I hold it responsible for changing my life and allowing me to have a life where I can be happy and thrive. And I recommend it to anyone who's struggling with depression or anxiety.
I did the same thing. I know what you mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, it got me on the path. It got me started. So I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, because it really does. And it incorporated, it's sort of funny. I look back now in my 40s and I'm like, how was I smart enough to, back then when I was making all sorts of bad decisions in my life, how was I smart enough to make that good decision? And also study. So what I would do is I would go to talk therapy where we would just sit and talk for an hour. And I would go home and I would write everything down that he said, like all sorts of bullet points and little tools and tips. And I just started studying it. And so it just helped me on so many different levels in terms of, understanding growing up in an alcoholic home, understanding why my parents were the way they were, having to learn the tough lesson of acceptance. I feel like the lesson of acceptance for me was about accepting my parents' limitations. Sure. And that they would never be. I had this illusion that one day it would have a fairy tale ending, and they would come to me and be like, "We're so sorry that your childhood was this way, and we've seen the light, and we're, let's all hug, and everything will be good from here on out." And he just said, sometimes we get parents that, have limits and don't recognize who they are and aren't self-aware, right, and are affected by their own painful past and haven't healed them. So you have to accept that, accept your parents for who they are, and accept that forgiveness will never, they'll never seek my forgiveness, and because of denial.
Right.
But you know what? That's such a hard lesson, but it's incredibly healing to just let go of needing that.
Right.
And it's personally empowering, because then you realize you don't need that, and you don't go to people expecting to fill up your cup who can't, and you let go of all of that.
Right, you do, and you really learn from that, so that you're not seeking happiness outside of yourself, but you're really you know that, okay, if my if your parents didn't meet your needs for happiness, well then where do I find happiness? If it's not within my own family structure, then where do I go? So what did you do next?
Well, I think, so I studied therapy, and I journaled.
Okay.
And I think that whole journey to self-awareness is what got me solid, walking out of depression step by step.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that I was really angry because of my childhood. And but that anger was actually a sign that I'm strong, because I was trying to retain who I am. Um,
Absolutely.
and it's an appropriate response when you have parents who are abusive. Anger is an appropriate response. So I was trying to hold on to who I was. But I needed an adult, a professional, someone to tell me that, because my head was, I'm a mess, I'm negative, I think bad thoughts about myself, I'm not as wonderful as everyone else, and that's a hard way to live. But therapy walked me out, step by step. And so then, and through journaling, through studying what, he advised me. And so that's where I just made a conscious choice that I would fix myself, fix the damage, and then where my parents had not, and carried it into being parents. And so because of that, then I was able to start making good decisions, that completely changed my life and put me on a path to happiness. And so that's what I could share with you, some of the things that he taught me.
Oh, absolutely right. Because what I love is you said two really important things that I think our viewers need to hear is that you you took responsibility. You knew and there are a couple of things here that I'd like to reinforce is that you knew it's a step-by-step process. It's
Mhm.
like you're showing us that you're telling us that happiness did not just happen like, one day you woke up and it was all your fairy tale illusion that
Right.
you wanted. It
Right.
was something that you actually worked for, and you
Mhm.
did the process step by step, and you may have slid backwards, but because you had the therapy and you were journaling and you were working on yourself, you kept going.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And you're right. It is step by step. And I love how you use the word fight, because I really think, we all deserve to fight for our own happiness.
Absolutely.
And so, he really challenged me to make those, and decision making is actually one of the things that he told me about. He, said every day we make, hundreds of decisions,
Mhm.
small and big, that can greatly impact our personal happiness.
Right.
So he said, consciously start making decisions that make you feel good about yourself. And it's so true, giving someone a compliment
Hmm.
makes you feel good about yourself. An authentic compliment, obviously, but, just, he used a really funny example, and it's silly, but I'll share it anyway. He said that he liked to go, and when he went through the drive-through to get food on occasion, he always wanted extra sauce, and he felt guilty. And so he gave them some extra money one time because he felt like he was using too much. But he said it was just a decision that made him feel good about himself. And, it's silly, but it's a silly example, but it stuck with me. And so I really still practice that today. And I always think every day, well, what decisions can I make today that will make today better? What can I do that will make me feel good about myself? And those decisions really have an impact on your outlook, changing your mind from negative to positive, and on your life.
Right. Well, and what you're like really sharing with us is that on a daily basis, you realize you're making decisions or you're making choices is basically what it is. And
Right.
you're choosing through your decisions what kind of a life you want to have.
Right. And back then, I joke, that I majored in like bad men, dating bad men in my 20s. And I think this is helpful. Hopefully, this could help someone. But he said it was like I was, driving a car, and instead of looking at all my internal gauges to see how I'm doing, I would stick my head out the window and yell to whoever on the street, how am I doing? And I did that with men. I would date men for validation. And, am I worthy? Am I lovable? Am I good enough? And, but if anything went wrong with the relationship, my whole self-image would be shattered. And so I really had to learn also step by step to read my internal gauges, to only let my opinion matter, not, don't hand over my self-worth to someone else.
Awesome. How did you learn to do that? I mean, can you remember? Because I think that's really important. Now, you're talking about now how you were listening inside rather than having your head stuck out the window, asking because what do? We go to our friends, we go to family, we go to everybody else, trying to get a gauge on how we're supposed to feel about something, or for validation. And yet what I'm hearing you say is that you've learned somehow to go inside and to either self-validate or to look inside to find out what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about, self-validation. And I think it's just taking the power back, tell yourself that, I have the power, I decide. And of course, breakups, heartache, those things are painful for everyone. But if a relationship doesn't work out, it doesn't mean you're not worthy or not lovable. It just means it was the wrong person. And I think, and I also, I was going to talk to you about having a gratitude practice, but, and we can talk about that too, sure. But also a self-gratitude practice. What do you love about yourself? What is great about yourself? And do you spend any time thinking of those things? Because I think it's so powerful to, I was so externally focusing on everything I like about a certain guy and, oh, he's so great, and idealizing him, while I tear myself down or focus on my flaws. So I just flipped it around, and I'm I'm going to focus on what I love about me, what's great about me, why I'm awesome. And then also, set boundaries, teach people how to treat you, and don't accept, dating situations where, that are painful. Because love is painful.
Right. Well, the thing is, and I think what you've made some really good points there, Sandra, in that you were finding out ways to make you happy, and you started looking at what you liked and appreciate about yourself.
Right.
So often, what do we usually focus on? I know I did this, is what's wrong with me?
Right.
So here you're sharing with us how you started thinking about what you liked about yourself. And then I would suspect that as you liked yourself more, then you respected yourself more, and then other people did too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it was a whole journey for me. Part of my depression in my 20s, I was, I moved to live on my own and everything after college. And, but I was scared to spend one night alone. And now, I'm married now with children, but it sounds crazy to think that, but I really was. I was so frightened to spend a night alone. I'd put it on CNN all night, so I'd have company. So I think it was also a journey, to focus on the internal, but also just to get comfortable living on my own. And I think through therapy, I learned, you're not going to die living on your own. You're quite capable of taking care of yourself. And I learned that. And I think that was empowering. And you know what? I actually left a bad relationship and got my own place. And I remember that night, I hadn't moved my furniture yet. And I just remember, lying on my floor, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel completely liberated, because it's so much more freeing to be alone and on your own than in the wrong relationship.
Oh, absolutely.
And I thought, being alone would kill me, and instead it empowered me. So, and then it was just a real transformation of, falling in love with myself.
Right. And that obviously made you happy, because that was the piece that was missing of why you weren't happy, is you didn't love yourself.
Right. Absolutely. I think somehow I got stuck thinking I'm like a child and not realizing I'm an adult, and I can do this.
Right. And then once you loved yourself, then how did you become more happier? How did more happiness, how did you draw or attract or create more happiness in your life?
Well, you know what? I feel like I've always been someone with a positive attitude. So I think the positive attitude definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
But then I really became a huge proponent of scanning our world, our days for the positive. So, and that's what I was saying earlier about a gratitude practice. I think it's so key for everyone. I have a friend who practices gratitude when she's backing out of her driveway and shutting the garage door. I grab my journal in the morning and write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And they can be silly. It can be a warm cup of coffee, or it can be something one of my daughters said to me, or, so it can be serious or silly, little, big. And I think, that made me happy. The good decisions made me happy. And then I really started learning to take risks. And, I've written about how I was an administrative assistant when I had a journalism degree because I was scared to go for that journalism job. Again, I'd have to be an adult and interview and do other scary things. And so I took those risks, though. And every time you take a risk, it's just so rewarding on the other side. So that really added to my happiness. And I think also the whole process of therapy taught me that I'm strong. And just recognizing that you're strong for everyone out there who, had a tough childhood. I think survivors of all different types of abuse often don't recognize, they feel so worn down, so, beaten down, that they don't recognize how strong they are. And if they could just tell themselves that, and then they'll start to see signs of it, and it can just really empower you.
Absolutely right, and I think in a way those situations do make us stronger, but it also, once we start recognizing that and feel more empowered, I think that leads us to being happier and more joyful, because you can count on yourself. Okay, you may not have heard. Did you hear that?
Yes, I had a little trouble hearing you there.
Okay, I'll repeat it. It was that the situations, those difficult situations in our childhood, absolutely, helped to make us stronger. And so what you did is you recognized that you're stronger. You really became your own person, and by being empowered as your own person and stronger, you found that you could make yourself happy.
Absolutely. And you know what? I'm such a huge proponent of, I use that now, and I think we can do this with all the painful situations in our lives. Say, I made it through that, so I can totally handle this, and I draw on it oftentimes to just live with gratitude. I'm like, I made it through those painful days. I can totally handle this problem in my life now. So I really think, it can teach us, how resilient we are.
Absolutely. It really does. And I love how you're referring back again and again to the practice of gratitude, because that's one of those practices that we underestimate. It's no big deal when we say thank you, or we appreciate either something about ourselves or something about life, or as you said, your child says something silly. You can be grateful for anything and everything. And the more gratitude we have, the better we feel.
Well, absolutely. And I think people just get so busy that they forget to do it, or they focus on a problem instead of seeing 100 blessings in their life, and because they're just immersed on this one problem.
Right.
And that's understandable. But if we can just remind ourselves to slow down and practice gratitude, around the dinner table, everyone shares something great about their day, or in a journal, or, even while you're showering. Things you're grateful for.
So what do you what do you teach your daughters? I think you have daughters, right?
Yes.
So what do you teach them about gratitude, or how do you practice it at home to bring more, because children are naturally happy, but gratitude is something that you need to learn.
Yeah, well, that is a great question. I think about that a lot. I'm an older mom, so they're only 3, but they're twins. But but it's an excellent question. And you know what? I think the best way to teach our daughters about happiness is to be happy ourselves. And so I want them to see my husband and I happy. I really believe in modeling it. I believe in living it. I, of course, want to make them happy, but I think it's very important for them to see that mom values herself. And I value my own happiness and my own interests. I'm just a big proponent of that because I think a lot of moms, work so hard that they forget their own needs. But I think it's important to teach your kids that you value yourself so they learn to value themselves.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect. I mean, it really is true, because that's the best way that our actions, our modeling, is what really hits home for them. It really makes a difference, and so that especially firsthand from the experience that you had as a child, and so you're mindful about what you're creating, that your daughters are seeing, even at a very, and that, like, we forget that three is, children are very impressionable when they're young. And so what you're doing now makes a huge impact. So it doesn't matter how old your children are, you're still, by your choosing happiness and joy, you're helping them to choose happiness and joy.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm very much, because I felt like I grew up in a house that was just dark and depressing, and the mood was sad a lot of the times, that I really am protective of my environment. So I actually want my house to be a place where people feel like they can stop by, and so we always try to manifest joy in our house. So whether that's, planning gatherings with friends, or being silly, or just being happy, like if you're in a bad mood or having a bad day, not letting that permeate the whole house, rising above, because I just think it's so important. And, surrounding yourself with positive people. I'm a big believer in that we all need to have, I believe that we become the 5 people we surround ourselves with the most. And so really choose those people wisely and stay away from toxic people. And it's just so important to protect our environments, because it like if I watch too much news, I start feeling fearful. That's another way to protect your environment, is don't, immerse yourself in negative news.
Right. And I love how you're bringing that up, because our environment does have a huge impact on our happiness, and fear will take us right out of happiness.
Right.
So, but I'm curious, what do you do with your daughters, or like with your family, to bring more silliness and joy? Like, what are some examples of some of the fun, the goofy things that you do that just uplift everybody?
Well, you know what? I think it's so important as a parent to just be a kid with them. So like the other day I was seeing if I could still do a cartwheel. So we were like doing cartwheels out in the front lawn, and I just get on the floor with them and read stories, or just be silly, like bring sleeping bags out in the living room, and and just have fun. Or I'm kind of I'm not a big rule follower, so I'm okay if we make a mess in the house, and just really, this is our one life. So, if we want to get all muddy outside or make a mess with finger paints inside, I'm really a strong proponent of those things, because it's all about, being alive and being a kid with them. So
yeah, and that's beautiful, and I thank you for sharing that, because when parents, I think from my experience and my background with working with children and parents, it's really important to play with your kids, and they uplift you, and you just have so much fun together. And that bond that you build, plus everybody's being happy and silly, and so it's, it just makes such a difference in everyone's life and with your family.
Yeah, absolutely. And another big thing is I really teach my girls the importance of exercise, because I think exercise is huge to our happiness. I'm a runner. I love to run races and different things. A great playlist, because music can really uplift us. So, having your favorite music and then going out in nature, for a run, that's where it's at for me. But for them, like, they just joined a little tumblers class. Movement, exercise, I want them to know, because science shows us that, exercise makes us happier, but really, it's an outlet for stress, for, whatever challenges we have going on in our lives. We can exercise and, and use that time for ourselves to think and process. So it's crucial. So I want them to know that's a foundation.
Excellent. And I love how you're sharing these practical, like bringing in the mom aspect as well. So what you do not only for, yourself, but you've incorporated that into with your family so that your little girls are picking up the same. So it's beautiful. So I would love to, if you would share a little bit about that free gift that you have and also where it will be on your website for everyone, Sandra.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. I will have it on the mediaconcierge.net and to be able to download as a PDF. And it will be all sorts of tools to increase your happiness and your resilience so you can live a more joyful life.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to see it because I know I've read a number of your blogs and writings, articles that you have on Live Happy, and they're fabulous. I mean,
Thank you so much.
insights. Oh, you're welcome. But your insights are so clear, just like you've shared and what I love about you is you're so honest, you're vulnerable, you're honest, you share from your heart, and you really go, this is what I do, this is the truth, this is what I did, and
Yeah.
I'm happier now, right?
Thank you so much.
And I think, well, we get, it's like a lot of times many people put on that facade that, we pretend everything's happy on the outside, and yet inside we're like dying. And so you're sharing that, I came from that dying place, and now look at me and look at you. You can see you're happy.
Thank you.
Well, you just have that calm demeanor and that joy. And when you talk about your daughters and finger painting or the sleeping bags, so and I know, and I can share with our viewers that's the quality that you and the inspiration and insights that you bring to your writing. So I really hope that they get that PDF file that you have in the Media Concierge, because it's fabulous.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're welcome. The other thing is can you tell us just a little bit more about Live Happy magazine?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So Live Happy magazine is a national newsstand publication, and they also put up articles daily on livehappy.com, and they interview all sorts of social scientists, psychologists, for the practices and tools, techniques we can do daily to, increase our own happiness, because what they found is, and I just love this, is that it's not achieving success in life that leads to happiness. It's being happy first leads to success. And that's what I found. When I became happier, I started making more successful decisions, and life became more successful. And so they really dive into the science behind it, but do it in a really interesting way. And it can just help everyone to live a more fulfilling life.
Right. Sandra, will you repeat that? What was that piece about? That happiness is inside us first. Could you say that? Because I got chills going up my body when you said that. So I think it bears repeating.
Oh, okay. That we need to be happy first, before we can have success. So, and it's a journey, to be happier. And if I have just a second, I'd love to also share, one of the great tools to getting us all there is self-compassion. And I just wanted to add that in because, that really was pivotal for me, is just giving myself a soft place to land when I made a mistake instead of beating myself up. And I think, we're all so good at being best friends to other people, but we need to learn how to do it for ourselves.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you brought that in, because self-compassion, if we don't have that, like you said, a landing place or being a best friend, I thought of a pillow. That place where we can hug ourselves and say, it's okay.
Yes.
I love you anyway, no matter what. That makes a big difference on how happy we feel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Sandra, this has been fabulous. I mean, our whole conversations have been such fun. And so you brought in so many insights. And again, your honesty and vulnerability, and just you modeled for us how, what it's like to be a happy person. So thank you so much. And I know our viewers are going to really appreciate your insights. So many blessings to you and to your girls and all your future writings. And I look forward to reading you on your blogs on Live Happy and wherever else.
Thanks so much, Catherine. It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Take good care.
You too.